Hey guys, this is Kamikaze playing Touhou, the Genius of Sephiroth. And last time we cleared out the Forest of Magic and we also did all the grinding stuff. Got extremely lucky with the special items for character synthesis. Not quite so lucky on the one shield that I wanted, but I think we'll be able to live without it for now. So we're going to take on Alice, and the party I am going with is as follows. So, Sanai, kind of fairly standard stuff with Sanai, not really anything too special. I will say that most of the items don't really matter too much at the moment, but make sure that you have sleep resistance on your healer, because that might actually be something that is important. It's not going to happen very often, but in my practice I did see the sleep status come out against Sanai, so make sure that you have resistance to that. Sakuya kind of, again, doesn't really matter too much, just the best stuff that she has at the moment. I don't know if blindness is a thing, but if it is, then probably best having Sakuya or Notori as your defenders against that, but honestly nothing too special here. For Patchouli I have the Fire Staff, Staff of Purgatory, and that's mostly it for that. She does have Water Enhance off of the Shower Amulet too, but you don't actually need to have that. You don't really need the Staff of Purgatory either, but you get that during the stage. So, but yeah, I would definitely put that on Patchouli rather than Marissa if you do decide to use Marissa. Nothing really different with Notori here, and I've decided to put the broom back on Marissa because MP recovery is not an issue in this fight, and the broom gives me +6 magic attack right now. The actual broom itself is +3, but because of the intelligence stat on Marissa, it gives 6 extra. So it's actually pretty big. If you wanted to craft her specialist broom, then you could, but you know, like I could, because I was fortunate enough to get a drop for the magic mushroom, but I'm not going to because it's not necessary, and I want to show how the fight would go as is. The commander is Reibu, so nothing too special with that. Growth wise, I think this is probably the most important bit, otherwise I really haven't gotten too much difference here. Basically just using all the points I had at level 14 with my main characters. That's pretty good just now, but yeah, essentially just getting more stuff here. I would have quite liked to buff this tree further, but honestly I think the recovery skill strength is still kind of important, just to make sure that I stay on top of things with the, if I need to use the lucky emoji thing, like her AoE heal. If I need to use that, then I want to have that at a good strength. And then, yeah, just a couple extra points. Doesn't really matter too much where you put these. I put one into speed and then HP and MP 5%. It's kind of okay. So yeah, just buff increasing strength, basically. Sakuya, again, everything should go in two-handed sword, but because slash resistance is not actually a thing in this fight, wasn't really any point in putting the getting 13 points in here just now, so I just decided with the other 3 points to get more HP and some decreased cooldowns, which will probably not make a single bit of difference, but oh well, it's there. The increased chance for multi-hit moves might actually help, because I might use Killing Doll in this fight, so yeah. Patchouli, we haven't actually explored Patchouli's trees yet. Patchouli has a really crazy physical attack tree, which is kind of dumb actually, but physical attack plus 100, that's even higher than Sakuya's physical attack up. It's actually the 3rd highest in the game if you count post-game characters. It's higher than every other non-post-game character, like buff tree. It's pretty stupid. She also then gets physical attack 60 in her book tree if you decide to use that, but no accuracy, so there you go. But anyway, her magic mastery is very important here. Magic cooldowns -1 is damn near essential if you want to use Patchouli, because all of her basic spells have a cooldown of 1. So if you get this, then you have a cooldown of 0 and you are pretty much set. probably should get as much into this tree as quickly as possible to get to cooldowns -2, and then from there you can do whatever, but it's pretty imperative to get cooldowns -2. And then some non-card damage up just to give her some buffs there, and mostly because I didn't think the speed would be too important for her, so we just did that, and then 1 extra point, get some more magic attack, and 10 extra MP is quite good too. For the Tori, I don't really know. You could just go Invention here. Invention is actually really good. You could get 13 points in that from here, I guess, and get an MP back every turn, but that 1 MP per turn is not really too good for a boss fight. It's pretty good on the field, but not so good here. But the auto heal would be very nice actually, so I could definitely see 10 points going there. But I'm gonna go with this tree because even though we don't have any chases yet, this tree gives me decreased cooldowns on my Procura Slash and Sunny Strike, stuff like that, and it also gives me increased elemental strength, so that's what I will be going for. Then Marissa is an even split between lasers and magic because Marissa's going to be mystic damage for the most part, and that's kind of good here. If you wanted, you could probably sacrifice your stuff here to get Slayer effect, but I don't think that actually counts against Alice, because Alice is not a warrior or surprisingly not a magician class, so I believe she is beast tier. It's kind of weird, I don't quite know what the deal with that is, but she's not a magician, so you won't get a Slayer from that. So basically just an even split here. Again, I don't think the speed makes too much of a difference. Alice doesn't have a great magic defense, so I don't need resistant damage, and I wouldn't be able to go any further in the tree. So yeah. Then Reimu, the only thing that matters on the commander is bombs, and this is the only bomb that I can get right now. It's a +1 on the concentration tree, so that's all that makes a difference. Skill wise, I guess it doesn't really matter too much. You've seen all the skills, we know what they're all about. Sakia is the same as always because this isn't Sakia, keep getting the names mixed up, but you can't mix those two up really, it's kind of silly. But yeah, I've got the physical defense buff. Honestly, Sanai's MP is a little bit limited just now though, so I might not even use it this fight. I used it in the practice fight, but I was basically running out of MP at the end of the fight, so who knows. Anyway, Alice is coming out of her house because reasons. I don't know why the tower is detached from the rest of her house though. It's kind of silly. So yes, it's a yokai targeting mist, that much is obvious. And apparently the doll talks, heck yeah. So Alice, I suppose in canon terms, has been experimenting with AI dolls basically, and I guess that's what we're seeing here. Without a hitch, yep. So nothing wrong in the doll's investigation. I don't know how she could control a doll like that, but then again, remote control dolls, right? So Alice gets an explanation of what happens. We don't, because spoilers. Inviting people to death. That's pretty morbid. That's what all the yokai are saying so far. Fair enough. Alice is a yokai after all. Magicians are usually yokai, not human, so take a few winks. Dolls should not need to sleep, damn it. Oh well. Guess it really is more alive than you would think. Yeah, so she's of course getting full of herself again, as always. Why is she targeting all the yokai? So she is probably thinking it's Yuko, because let's face it, Yuko is the master of death after all. So yes, everyone here, and yeah, it did take a reasonable long time. It took 2 parts to get through that forest, so yeah, it did take quite a long time. Didn't expect you to get past the barriers. You just had to touch the doll and it disappeared. So yeah, who cares about that? Blah blah blah. You're the culprit, right? Stop this incident now. Then Alice is like, what the crap are you talking about, baby? Why would Alice be the culprit here? According to Patchouli, it gives the magic feeling, blah. So, of course, Saki is saying that Patchy thought up this is going to... Yeah, magician rivalry's coming on in. So yeah, it does indeed feel similar to the flow, but going down only one research avenue is not necessarily going to solve the case, right? So smug Alice is smug, and Patchy's like, I don't have time for this. Yes, so Alice has been studying the whole thing because she kind of wants to know what's going on. Well, why wouldn't you study something that you have nothing to do with? If it's interesting to you, then it's interesting, you know, and you should study it because of its interest. But also because Alice is kind of a yokai, so she wants to know why she's getting targeted. That doesn't really matter though. It could be something to something that will impact her later. And then of course Alice is gonna go tsundere as usual, but well, as usual for the fan then at least. And then Marissa's like, shut down. And what is that hair for? So Patch and Alice don't exactly get along too well in this game, at least not at the moment. Just kind of there. So Alice is like, well, it's fight time. And of course Aya has to get all the scoops and stuff. Another showdown between magicians, yep. Could be. So exciting. And then of course flappy arms Merc Sanae is yeah. Of course, you shouldn't be asking Reimu for agreement about a fight here. See, I don't understand Reimu's logic here. It's like, why are you attacking Alice here? There's no need. But of course, that just means it's boss time with Alice, whose book is looking a little bit brighter than it should be. I think something went wrong in the colour scheme there. It's supposed to be a dark, like black brown, rather than this white chocolate, basically. But yes, this is Alice. So, Alice is a rather interesting foe to be fighting, and she's very slightly randomized, as we'll see in a sec. She will, of course, be utilizing dolls, as she always does, but the manner in which she utilizes them is a little bit random. Do not go ahead and use a spell with Patchouli the first turn, because all of Patchouli's spells are target alls, and if you end up getting an unlucky formation, you might screw yourself over by using that first turn, so don't do that. And this is not the formation that I would have been thinking of, but Alice basically has 3 different doll formations, and one of them is really nasty for Patchouli's magic, at least to start with. So Doll's Triangle is a physical attacking formation, where the dolls will basically be an all-out offensive. The dolls don't really have too much defense, but they do not take any damage from magic, so do bear that in mind. Even though they're supposed to have elemental weaknesses, they take like no damage from any magic attacks, as Patchy will probably show you fairly soon. So I'm going to go ahead and buff evasion this turn. The dolls in this formation are pretty weak against physical though, so we're going to go ahead and use physical attacks, and they are weak against earth, wind, water and fire, so that does mean that Notori over here can use her attacks to great effect, which would be good. So we see that laser does no damage whatsoever to them, even though they don't have a resistance to it. And ooh, that is nasty. That physical defense down might be bad. We'll see, because the evasion should hopefully be fine here. But you see, yeah, Notori does so much damage. And luckily that skewer missed most. I should have said the formation we're dealing with here. We are using the Hakure formation for the stat buffs here. It's still perfectly fine to use the Kappa formation, but I want the attack buffs and stuff, so yeah. Anyway, I'm going to heal Sakuya because she is a very important damage dealer here. And we'll just go ahead and use basic physicals on that. So another thing with Alice in this fight is that the more dolls she has in play, the higher her defenses will be. And she also has a regen that's dependent on the dolls that she has as well. So the more dolls in play, the more health and she recovers. I think she recovers MP anyway, but she might not. I actually wasn't paying attention, so whatever. But she recovers MP as well whilst the doll's around. Ooh, that dispel. That is not terrible. Dispel basically removes your variety buffs, so Sanai no longer has evasion, but other than that it's not too bad. I mean, I think she might have had the defense down as well, so that got removed. On any turn that Alice does not have any dolls out, she will make new dolls, so you don't, like the last time, you don't want to attack with Patchouli until the one particular formation has passed. Then you can attack with Patchouli all you want with magic. But it is this formation here, Alice Phobia. So you notice each of these dolls has got a coloured dress, and they're coloured in such a way that they are represented by core elements. So we have the top left is the earth doll, the bottom left is the electric doll, top right is fire, bottom right is water. So if you hit one of these dolls with their own elements, they will counter-attack with a very strong all-target spell of that element. You do not want that. It will nuke your party if you get hit by maybe one of those, so don't do that. Instead, target down one of the dolls, and this is why we've got Patchy. If you target down one of the dolls and then blitz the rest of this with AoE, then this formation goes by really easily. But do not use spells with Patchouli until you have removed one of the dolls. Another thing, I guess this fight will probably show the land gauge. We'll talk about that probably next turn when we actually have some land to work with. Each of the dolls will use basic attacks from their own element, but they don't have too much health, so they are fairly easy to take down. Also, Alice does have a shield, as we saw there, so physical attacks will have a chance to be guarded against. She doesn't block the damage entirely, but she will reduce it. So the land has actually gone in favour of water here, which is not what I want, but it's fine, we'll deal with it. So essentially, to explain the land gauge in a nutshell, each of the 6 magic elements that can oppose each other have a land bar at the top. So the top bar is for water and fire, the middle bar is for earth and electric, and the bottom bar is for light and darkness. Mystic is non-elemental, so it doesn't count for this. For every attack of one element that gets used, it increases the land gauge for that element. So we used like 3 water attacks last turn, so the land used to favour fire, but now it favours water. When when an element is favored by the land gauge, it increases the damage that that element does and decreases its opposite. So a maxed out fire gauge will greatly diminish any damage you would take from water, and vice versa. If you have an element affinity associated with your armor, you will also regen health when that land element is beneficial. Or, you know, like when it's basically when it is in favor, then you will increase your health. Like, you'll get regen. And the regen is stronger depending on the strength of the land gauge itself. Also, in this formation, Alice will just spam area heal, so you need to get rid of this formation quickly. Both Sunite and Patchouli are kind of weakened here, so even though it's expensive, I'm going to use the party heal here. These dolls are not going to take too much longer to go down, so that's good. I think I'll just hit the top one with, you know what, let's just kill it with a fire, because the more land I have here, the better. So, because Patchouli is fire based in her stuff, so also that perfect dodge coming on in, pretty nice. But you see, Alice doesn't really take damage from magic in this formation, which is kind of annoying. My physical attack went down, but it doesn't matter too much because the last formation is good against physical anyway, so we'll just keep buffing it. But you see now, magic attack, or not just magic, any attack on the fire side is going to do a lot of damage at this point, so that's good. So we'll just finish off that doll, and we'll have a new doll come up at the end of this turn. And because there are no dolls left, Alice did take quite a lot of damage from the fire attack there. But you see, Notori has the fire rat armor on, so she has a bit of fire affinity herself, and Patchouli just gets regen in fire now, which is really nice. She gets like 20 health a turn, same with Notori, which stacks with her plus 20 health anyway, so very, very good. Now, the last formation is a physical defense formation, so we should be okay to deal with that. It shouldn't be too bad, mostly because we can just use like all the spell cards and stuff we have now. We've got more than enough MP on our mages to just blitz this. So this has, yeah, physical defense dolls. They can do a decent bit of damage, I think, but they're mostly here just to tank hits whilst Alice chucks out status moves. But they are very weak to magic, so both Marissa and Patchouli are going to wreck this formation. Like, especially Marissa, especially Patchouli with this, because the dolls are still weak against elements. So yeah, Patchouli just wrecks them in one hit. And once you've gone through all three doll formations, Alice is really just a pushover, so basically it's just break down the dolls and kill her. If you want, you can leave like one doll behind and just single target Alice. The problem with that is that after a few turns of a formation being active, Alice starts using very powerful attacks, so you have to be careful of that. But with good strategy, it's not too difficult to knock the dolls down, and when you do, Alice is pretty straightforward. So yeah, not as difficult to fight as a lot of people would like you to believe, and now you can see Reimu's plus 5% experience actually came in quite handy here. So Reimu now has a Foot of Dispelling, which is her heal variety status, so that's kind of nice. She also has a buff in her Dream Tree, or it's not concentration. Concentration's to her defensive stuff, but her healing and barrier tree, she has a buff that gives her the ability to not dispel positive effects. Go and stop this mist already. She's not the culprit, damn it. Oh, you just beat her up for no reason. sticking with it for that long. That's not how interrogation works, Reimu. If somebody sticks to their story for long enough, that means they're telling the truth. That's not how it works. Dude, if that was how it works, then pretty much every criminal ever would not have actually committed their crimes. So yeah, who is our next suspect going to be? You really should have asked this before fighting. Like, that... I don't even know why they fought in the first place. That was just kind of silly. Yeah, Sana, you didn't really want to do that, but whatever. So, what indeed do we think? Well, Alice doesn't really know either, but she does have more ideas than... Not exactly, Patchy. Yeah, Alice actually goes outside. Oh snap. Yeah, so she has done an investigation about what the mist is, which is a bit more than Patchy did, obviously. And, yeah, death invitation. That's what everybody is saying, is that they feel as if they are being asked to die, which is very morbid when you think about it, but now that you mention it, it's like, oh, I've been casually ignoring this before, but now that you mention this potentially useful clue, yeah, well, Patch, your body was worn out before the mist, so don't worry too much. But oh, magician speak. So Reimu's like, I don't know what the crap you're talking about. Apparently Marissa doesn't either, but then again, I guess yokai magician probably thinks in a different style, so you're the slow one, so screw you. But yes, as I said earlier, Yuyuko, it would be the first one I would think of. Yes. So our next target is Yuyuko then, right? The lady from the Netherworld, yes. How do you know who Yuyuko is? I'm trying to think, could Sana have even encountered Yuyuko by now? Or Yomu for that matter? I don't even know. But yes, Haku... the place I can never pronounce. I guess it's Hakugyo-kuro, which I just never remember how it's spelled, so I can never remember to pronounce it. But yeah, whimsical nature, just doing this for fun would probably be something Yuyuko would do, so reasonable suspect. That makes it quick then. Yeah, let's just go, right? And Alice is gonna come too, of course, just to make sure what's going on. Yeah, that's true. So Alice is going to be our new party member, which is nice. Unfortunately, there's a catch. Because Yuyuko, being as whimsical as she is, could very easily just lie about the whole thing, right? She could very easily just say, oh, I'm not the one who's doing it, and then Reimu's like, well, fine, and probably beats her up, but then leaves, and Yuyuko just continues doing it, right? So, how do we get around that problem? I don't like where this is going. Bring Satori. So, yes, this did obviously take place after a UFO, so the events of subterranean animism will have been known, and Aya was actually one of the yokai who would have been asking Reimu to investigate down below. I believe Yukari is the canon ending for that, but Aya was definitely one of the characters there, so Aya knows all about Satori and her mind-reading capabilities, or should I say heart-reading, really, not mind-reading, but it's the same thing. So basically they want to bring Satori along to make sure whether or not Yuyuko is telling the truth and get to the bottom of this. Reimu, of course, being as happy as ever to beat more people up and to drag them along into everything, is like, yeah, let's do that. Yes, such a useful item, there you go. Yeah, I would pity Satori as well. Go into the underground to capture Satori. But of course things are never going to be quite that easy, right? So with the introduction of Alice, we have a couple of other things that we can show now. So first off, Alice's formation, the Dolls division. It's a very, very defensive thing here. I don't remember if there's a speed decrease. I don't think this is the one that has a speed decrease, but it probably would have said if there was actually. But basically everybody in the front of this formation gets targeted way more often and will have increased defense before they make a move. So if you've got a lot of slow tank characters, then they can go up front and defend your fragile rear. Ugh, excuse me. Which basically is good for magicians, but I don't know, like, I've never really been a huge fan of the formation. If I want a defensive based one, then I will usually use the Moira Wall, which will also mean that I don't get targeted too often with my rear characters. The separation though is nice for defending against small AoE attacks, so that's something you could bear in mind. You know, things like, if it was used against you, Notori's Maruto break wouldn't be very good against this formation. It could hit the front three, I think, but it could never hit both the front and back at the same time. So, I don't know, it can be useful, not something I normally use though. And then for Alice, who is going to be our new commander, she is basically a physical meat sack. Like, literally, that is just about all she is really used for. You can see her physical defense at level 1 is over 40 points with her default armor. It's kind of stupid. Like, really stupid. So, she is literally your go-to defender of justice and the Touhou way, I suppose. But also, she can defend her allies if she has a shield equipped. Unfortunately, the shield I was looking for is not something I picked. You know, I didn't get it during the grinding stuff. I'll have to work out a different shield that I can give her instead to try and get the same sort of effects. I don't think there is one this early into the game though. I'll have to take a look. She also has a natural defense against stab attacks, so that's quite useful. And she doesn't really have a lot of magic defense, but she has a ton of physical, so yeah, definitely a physical defender, that's for sure. In terms of growth tree stuff, she has, well, her marionette skill is a column based shielding thing, so if you have a shield on you, then Alice can basically use her shield for every character in one column. It works better if Alice is in the column as well, but it will still work no matter which column you go for. And usually I find it's fine when you buff this tree enough. When you cover allies, you get yeah, shield evasion goes way up when you put enough points into this. That should be the first thing you do, I think, is to get 10 points in this tree, because basically that means that no matter what shield you're using, it will always trigger when you have the right type of attack used against it, even if it doesn't trigger very often against that type of attack normally. What this means is you want a shield that can defend against everything. So I could use the pot lid just now, I guess, and that would be a good defend all shield for just now. But you really want a strong shield that can defend against every type of attack when you use Alice. And then you cover your allies, and even if they can't use a shield themselves, they will have Alice's shield for the turn. She also has like ridiculous HP, Alice, so it's very easy to defend against it. She's a boss killer, really. You can use her in standard stuff, but she's much better at taking on bosses. Otherwise, you've got other various support skills. Alice does have a few field spells for increasing defense like capabilities on shields and for defending against certain element types. So she has a little bit of that in this tree. Honestly, the most useful thing in this is unfortunately the very last thing, which is the MP cost down. But then again, cooldowns is pretty nice too. It should be noted that her shielding attacks are physical, so if she gets blinded then she can't use her shield defending, which is annoying. And then Alice's defensive stuff is really good here. You can get more shield evasion in general here, so that when you're not covering allies, then you can still have, you know, high shield evasion for Alice herself. But she also gets a lot of physical defense up on her shield stuff in this tree, which is pretty nice. So you can increase the amount of defense that your shield provides, just in case you needed any more target stuff, any more defensive capabilities. Her offensive tree is really terrible, so 3 points in this is about all you would ever want to get for +1 bomb, and that is actually really useful by itself. 13 points if you really don't have anything else, but that's like late game. When you start getting 60-70 points, you might end up putting points to get bombs too here, but probably not even that. You probably want to have most of the rest of this stuff first. You want to max out manipulation as quickly as possible, because, well, the cooldowns are great, the MP cost down is great, and the more times you can activate your shield, the better. So you definitely want to get this up as fast as you can. And you want to get a decent bit into here, but it's not as important. It's mostly manipulation, a good bit of craft for the shield defense up, and obviously giving Alice more HP, and then yeah, you kind of want to just go into these two after that. And then her own unique weapon is a kick to the, is literally a boot to the head, because she kicks and you could strike the enemy head. She dazes quite a bit with her attacks. That is kind of her thing, is that her boots can cause daze, which is literally just flinching the enemy. But you can fairly reliably daze if you give enough offensive stuff for it, but honestly, Alice is not a damage dealer, so you're not normally going to be using this stuff. There's a fun application for it in the final post-game dungeon though, which is nice, but yeah. That is Alice in a nutshell. And then finally we can go see Akyu, and she better give us stuff this time, like seriously. Yes, so we've defeated Alice, so we now get the next tier of stuff. So every time you defeat a main character, obviously you go back here and you see, hey, she was an expert, like magician, Dollmaster, there we go. So, of course, hard fought battle, blah blah blah, and we get more stuff. So we get an upgrade for Alice, and then got a shield, some armor for Reimu and Aya, and we get some status resistant stuff, if I remember rightly. That's the runestones defend against particular status types, I think. And then we also get this stuff, which is essentially upgrading the items that we picked up in the previous stage. So things basically like the frozen sombrero upgrades the cold hat to always block sleep rather than almost always. Usually not something which I'm going to use, but hey, they're there and they could be useful. Some of these we don't have yet, we will get them later on though. And yeah, we've already talked about her already, so we don't need to worry about that. So yeah, I guess that is basically it. I mean, I could show off what our stuff is in here real quick, the new stuff that we got. So we didn't get any new weapons except for Alice's one. You can see there it can inflict daze, so that's nice. Alice's weapons tend to defend against certain status or elements. Like this one defends against stun, which is your burn, your freeze, your daze, stuff like that. She has ones that give you added defense against all the elements, like resistances, which is quite nice. I guess we also got this too. The middleweight shields here. In fact, I think the lightweight. Do the lightweight ones do it as well? Yeah, the shields here basically defend against physical +1 element. So if you really don't like earth-based attacks, then you could get this shield and defend against earth, which is okay, but probably not something I'm gonna do. Tell you what I'm definitely gonna do when we get to this though is to get the claymore. That's gonna be for next time, but this, I guess, is Reimu's tier 1 thing. I might actually get this because I got the extra donation box. So, character-specific armor very often increases your bombs and or your life count as well. It's usually one of the big ways that characters will get more bombs than their trees will allow. So, yeah. And then Reimu's specific armor also defends against light most of the time. So she gets a bit of light resistance and just resistance to status in general, as well as an extra bomb. So I'm probably going to get that. And then Sun Eyes 1 I believe we already had. But Sun Eyes 1 is very, very good against instant death and removal. She tends to get that sort of thing on her armor as well, where she gets some good resistance to insta-kills, which is nice. Removal is a stronger form of instant-kill, which we haven't yet to see, but we will do eventually. Stylish made uniform, we'll show that in a sec, because we've got to do Aya's one first. So she gets an extra bomb. Aya's armor has evasion on it, and usually some good resistance to stun, I suppose, or something along that lines. So if you're still using Aya, which I won't be really, but if you are, then this armor's not too bad to get. And then Sakuya's armor gives multi-strike up, so you know her attacks can basically work multiple times. Well, multi-strike kind of adds a thing to that. I think you could actually get her skills to go multiple times when you do this as well, so you know, stuff like her Jack the Ludobile and stuff can multicast if you have this, which is decent. But one thing to note in this game with multicasting moves is that if you use a Danmaku skill and it double casts, it takes the MP for both shots, so you do have to watch your MP count there. It doesn't take the bombs for both shots though, it only takes the bomb for one shot, so that's kind of weird. And then, yeah, oh, this actually has a bit more than I thought. You get a little bit of resistance to an element and a nullification of that element's stun status. So, because I haven't really talked about those stuns too much. Burn, I believe if you're using a physical attack, it stops you using it that turn. Freeze is a debilitation for the entire turn. There's someone else with Burn, I think, as well. I think Burn also increases the damage you would take from fire moves or something for that turn. I'd need to look it up, but it's kind of hard to look this one up actually, because this status isn't particularly well documented, but oh well. Freeze literally stops you from moving for the rest of the turn, and it lowers your evasion to 0. So if you haven't attacked in that turn, you can't attack anymore, but you also have no evasion and no perfect dodge until the end of the turn. So nasty if the first enemy uses it, otherwise not so big a deal. And then the Earth Moonstone prevents Daze. Daze is literally just flinching, as I said before. And Shock, I think, is the magic equivalent to Burn, so I'm pretty sure it stops you using magic. It might be the other way around, but I'm pretty sure it's magic that it stops. And then you take more damage from electric for that turn, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I don't use these myself, although the Water Runestone is quite nice if you're really struggling against Freeze. But usually I don't find the status comes up enough to make it worthwhile. And then just as an example, well, Silence Guard is a different thing entirely. That's not what we had. These are what we had, where you use the Twilight tag and basically make it so that it always works. However, because these are item drops in chests, you cannot get the original item back. So if you upgrade from the Twilight tag to the Twilight charm, you cannot get another Twilight tag. You actually can't get duplicate items for anything except materials in this game. So if you have let's say if you have made a Confusion Guard, you can no longer make another Confusion Guard once you have it. That's it. It's in your inventory, and that's it. You can only have one copy. So you need to think a little bit about that, especially if you're looking at making generic weapons or armor, or shields more importantly. You need to watch that. Don't make stuff that you kind of want later. Or, you know, don't try and use two things that are the same, because you're not going to get it. And that is it. So, this has been Gamer Cow playing Touhou, the Genius of Sapphos. Well, yeah, that's kind of what it is. And next time we go down into hell, I guess, to acquire Satori. Yeah, I don't really like the way that it's put either, but that's what it is.